Knew it wasn't going to be easy after having a stroke after 5 months. In fact, I don't think that's ever been done before in American political history before, actually. After that stroke, I got knocked down, but I got back up. And I hope that when you had those challenges, women, you're.
So that is John Fetterman a day after his big debate with Dr. Oz. And I think he understands, as most did, that it did not go super smoothly. He had some good lines, and Dr. Oz massively embarrassed himself in a number of different ways, which we'll talk about. But it was tough, and he acknowledges, I'm still recovering from the stroke. I'm trying to get back up, and having the doctor as well as so much of the media constantly hitting him in incredibly unfair ways, that does suck. And we are indeed seeing that under the guise of we're just asking questions. It is not just Fox News that is trying to implant in the minds of viewers that this is a disqualifying thing. The fact that the guy might have a little bit of trouble hearing or speaking. You had Wolf Blitzer asking literally the press secretary for Joe Biden, does he have any concerns about Fetterman after the debate? I think that's a fair question. I think, Joe Biden probably is considering switching over to Dr. Oz because Fetterman stumbled a bit. That's probably what's going on, Wolf Blitzer. Totally fair debate, totally reasonable for a really influential journalist to be asking. You have Jake Tapper bringing on CNN's medical analyst to talk about the severity of his significant neurological injury. And they go beyond that. It's not just vague. He has a specific concern that's really gonna make a lot of people worry. Let's go to that video.
You said you think this is more than just an issue with auditory processing, which is what some reporters in the campaign seem to be suggesting, that he hears the words, but he's just having trouble computing what they mean. It takes him a couple seconds. You say he also has expressive aphasia. What is that?
Yeah, so he's had an injury to his brain in the area that helps someone process speech. So most people have thought that Mr. Fetterman's injury was how he processed sound, which is why they gave him the prompter. But what was really apparent last night was that he has expressive aphasia.
Oh my God, that's actually really concerning. I mean, like as that guy says, a lot of us just thought that he had a problem with communication, but it's something beyond that. It's this expressive aphasia. And since I'm not a doctor and there's no way to know what that means, I guess I'm just gonna leave this little interaction on cable news being very, very worried about John Fetterman. Oh wait, I can Google it, I looked it up. Expressive aphasia means, for instance, according to Hopkins Medicine, that the person might eliminate the words and or the from sentences. They might speak in short but still meaningful sentences. Well, dear God, not expressive aphasia, not in this economy. That's a communication thing. Like the headlines and the interview are all, oh, this isn't just a communication thing, it's much worse because now we have words that we know you won't be able to define that just mean it's a communication thing. It's the same damn thing. And this is not Fox News, it's not Breitbart, this isn't Ben Shapiro, this is CNN in multiple different instances desperately trying to get people in Pennsylvania to be worried about the fact that John Fetterman just speaks with a little bit of difficulty. You saw him at the rally, by the way, he seemed perfectly fine. Not 100%, but he communicates a lot better than Louis Gohmert or Marjorie Greene at this point. But that's not the impression you would get from these very serious establishment media types that are just asking questions. Yasmin, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a crazy double standard that the left has for its political candidates. And that double standard is perpetuated by a lot of left-leaning or left center media like CNN. The things that are coming out of John Fetterman's mouth are not nearly as bad as the things that we've heard out of very lucid, non-health related, candidates on the right who don't have issues with, what is it, the aphasia thing, right? They don't have those issues, right? Yeah, so it's not a problem, but they're making it a problem. They're making it to be more than it is, more than it should be. And I think we need to commend Fetterman instead for going through what he went through. That's a huge deal to have a stroke and then to still be on the campaign trail and still debating on a national stage and still going to rallies. That's a big deal.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely hate it. And look, I know everybody's been led to believe that the media is like totally liberal. It's a liberal media bias. CNN, MSNBC, they love the Democrats. And yes, there are plenty of Democrats that they like. And so it might make people wonder, well, then why the hell would they want Dr. Oz? And I don't even know that they actively do want a Dr. Oz. I know that they love pretending that they're neutral or whatever, when that's only about ideology. When it comes to protecting the status quo, especially the financial status quo, that is always where their bias is going to lie. So they might disagree with Dr. Oz on some social stuff or something, but if they think Dr. Oz is going to deliver business deregulation or let CNN merge with other networks or keep their own personal income taxes low, they can ignore the social stuff. That's just fun and games. That's just the sport that they watch or whatever. What they really care about is their taxes. And they probably have made the decision or the determination that Dr. Oz is gonna be a more reliable vote to keep their taxes low, or possibly even lower than they are now, than John Fetterman would be. And so it's very easy for them to just ask questions, even if it's incredibly ableist, even if it's incredibly ableist when they've been told for weeks that a lot of disabled people find this to be highly offensive. They clearly care more about their taxes than insulting literally millions of people suffering with the exact same medical conditions that John Fetterman is currently recovering from. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I think what we're also seeing here is the fact that there is no truly unbiased media, right? At least here, I feel like we're more transparent about our biases, right? Like we're very upfront about it. You know how we typically feel about certain things. We know how we lean, but on networks like CNN, for instance, especially in this particular case, you see them trying to play that two sides kind of thing. And that's part of what we've been seeing with CNN specifically lately since they've been under new management. They're trying a new thing, right? And I guess this is where it gets us, This is where we see them trying to pretend like they're not as biased as maybe they are, and maybe try to pretend like they're trying to look at both sides and trying to pretend like they're actually getting down to the crux of the issues, right? But at the end of the day, they're hurting a candidate. It is ableist, as you said, and it's not fair, right? It's a really much higher standard that they hold candidates on the left to than the candidates on the right.
100%. Yeah. It's not to say that nobody will mention the fact that Dr. Oz reminded everyone that he's gonna let the county dog catcher choose what happens to your uterus or whatever. They might briefly mention that. And how many
dogs did he kill also, right? Didn't he kill like
Speaking of dog catchers, exactly. Yeah. But he was really articulate while he was killing the dogs, so we can ignore that.
Counts for more, yep.
Yeah, they don't want the debate to be about the issues because they're not supposed to say on the air what position they have on the issues. So they don't get to engage in the fun opining. But if you make it about communication and optics or are you worried, if you make it vague, then all of a sudden Jake Tapper gets to act like a pundit. It's way more fun and entertaining for him there. It doesn't do the service to your viewers of actually making sure they know what John Fetterman would do in terms of actual policy versus Dr. Oz, but it is more fun along the way.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.